Welcome back, Spiderbites, my fellow hackers and security enthusiasts. I am your host, Gaurav. Today, we are going to dive deep into the world of web application security. In particular, we will be taking a closer look at the OWASP Top 10, one of the most widely referenced standards in the industry. OWASP Top 10 is the de facto standard for understanding and building secure web applications. Developed by the Open Web Application Security Project, OWASP, the Top 10 represents a broad consensus about the most critical security risks to web applications. While the OWASP Top 10 has been around for many years, it is still relevant today, as web application security threats continue to evolve. In this video, we will explore each of the top 10 risks in detail so that you can better understand how to secure your web applications. 1. Injection attacks. The first item on the OWASP Top 10 is injection. Injection flaws occur when untrusted data is passed to an interpreter as part of a command or query. These flaws can cause applications to behave in unexpected ways, enabling attackers to steal data or take control of the application. For example, a SQL injection attack could allow an attacker to execute arbitrary SQL code, which could lead to data theft or unauthorized access to sensitive systems. 2. Broken authentication and session management. The second risk on the OWASP Top 10 is broken authentication and session management. This occurs when an application does not properly manage authentication and session data, allowing attackers to take over user accounts and impersonate legitimate users. For example, a successful session hijacking attack could allow an attacker to access a user's account and perform unauthorized actions on their behalf. 3. Cross-site scripting, XSS. The third risk on the OWASP Top 10 is cross-site scripting, XSS. This occurs when an application accepts untrusted data and returns it to users without proper validation or encoding. These flaws can allow attackers to inject malicious scripts into web pages, which can steal sensitive information or take control of user accounts. For example, an XSS attack could allow an attacker to inject a script that steals a user's cookies, which could then be used to access the user's account. 4. Insecure direct object references. The fourth risk on the OWASP Top 10 is insecure direct object references. This occurs when an application allows users to access sensitive information or functionality without proper authorization checks. These flaws can allow attackers to bypass access controls and view or modify data that they should not have access to. For example, an insecure direct object reference vulnerability could allow an attacker to access a user's private information without proper authorization. 5. Security misconfiguration. The fifth risk on the OWASP Top 10 is security misconfiguration. This occurs when an application is not properly configured, leaving it vulnerable to exploitation. These flaws can allow attackers to access sensitive information or take control of the application. For example, a misconfigured server could allow an attacker to access files that should not be publicly available, such as configuration files or source code. 6. Insecure cryptographic storage. The sixth risk on the OWASP Top 10 is insecure cryptographic storage. This occurs when an application stores sensitive data in an insecure manner, allowing attackers to steal or modify the data. For example, if an application stores passwords in plain text instead of hashing them, an attacker could steal the passwords and use them to access user accounts. 7. Failure to restrict URL access. The seventh risk on the OWASP Top 10 is failure to restrict URL access. This occurs when an application allows unrestricted access to sensitive URLs, such as administrative interfaces or private data. For example, an attacker could access an administrative interface by guessing the URL, or by using a tool that automatically scans for vulnerable URLs. 8. Insufficient transport layer protection. The eighth risk on the OWASP Top 10 is insufficient transport layer protection. This occurs when an application does not properly protect sensitive data during transmission, such as by using encryption. For example, if an application does not use HTTPS to transmit sensitive data, attackers could intercept and steal the data. 9. Improper input validation. The ninth risk on the OWASP Top 10 is improper input validation. This occurs when an application does not properly validate user input, allowing attackers to inject malicious commands or data. For example, an attacker could exploit an input validation vulnerability to inject SQL code into a query, enabling them to steal data or take control of the application. 10. Insufficient authorization and access control. The final risk on the OWASP top 10 is insufficient authorization and access control. This occurs when an application does not properly enforce access controls, allowing attackers to access sensitive data or functionality. For example, an attacker might exploit an authorization vulnerability to view or modify data that they should not have access to. That's it for today's video. Stay tuned for our next interesting projects.